And I'm not moving. So our objectives for this evening is to define advocacy as collective action, and we'll be talking about some of the vocabulary we'll be using, and you may hear the teachers and the staff using as well. We're going to explore how supporting interdependence takes a developmental approach. That means some of the activities we'll be discussing for 5, 6, 8-year-olds will be different than the activities that are suggested and recommended for your children who may be teenagers. And we want to help you identify the everyday skills that you can practice at home and in the community to guide your child to develop these most important skills leading to successful adult living. So the term, and it's a term that I um, needed to really think about in preparing for this evening. I always think about independence, right? We want our kids to be independent. We want we seek that independence, but the issue of interdependence and that mission and vision um, is somewhat different. So independence means we can do things on our own. Interdependence means that we understand that we all rely on one another and on systems. So interdependence, as we're using the term this evening, and as you'll be thinking about it, we hope in the future, is not the opposite of independence, but rather it's the next step in helping our children and the community that they are living in support and accept support in return. And we need to think about this as not just the people that help our children, but the systems that help our children as well. So in thinking about this, I think most of us now rely on a GPS to get directions. It's been years since I relied on a map, taking it out of my glove compartment and unfolding it and then trying to fold it back up together. GPS is a system that I rely on. That's a form of that interdependence. Many of you, as I, may use your microphone when you send an email or a text. Again, a system that we rely on. So I want you to think about this in terms of people supporting people and systems supporting people. Advocacy is a process of communicating our needs. It's shaped both by our internal factors, like our emotions, our energy, our sensory needs. When I'm really cold, I don't think the same way as I do when I'm comfortable with the temperature, for example. Bright lights really bother me. So those are external factors. And how we're feeling, are we tired? Are we energetic? And it doesn't have a single shape or form. It looks different for each person, and it changes throughout the day and may change from day to day. So what works 1 month may need to be changed in the future. And it's ever evolving. It changes over time. It depends upon the situation. And just when you think you know what's going to work, your child develops, matures, changes, and then you need to revisit the supports, the systems that you are using and that your child uses. So as we reimage advocacy, we used to think about being a self-advocate, speaking up, saying what's on your mind was the pinnacle of success. But we've learned that it really is collective action. And in Nest, we've created a shared responsibility for understanding and meeting the needs of your loved ones. So it's not up to your child to constantly ask for what is needed, and that is not carried out by your child alone. We're rethinking the traditional definitions of advocacy that used to center on independence and shifting our focus to this collective work and the concept of interdependence. And then finally, we're centering our efforts on building awareness in families, in communities, and of course in schools that foster consideration of the diverse experiences of our children. So here's a quote from an advocate that says, we want to move from the myth of independence, that everyone can and should be able to do everything on their own. I must tell you tonight, if I was not partnering, I would be really stressed, thinking I have to control the system, I have to control the technology, I have to talk, I have to remember the points, I have to move the PowerPoint forward. This is a collaboration. This is an example of collaboration. And Mia says, I'm fighting for interdependence that embraces need and tells the truth so no one does it on their own, and that the myth of independence is just that, a myth. I want you to think about what role you play in your family's advocacy practices. So many families, so many parents, so many primary caregivers have said, I am my child's primary advocate. And it's my role to fight to ensure access to services, fight to ensure a place in the family, fight to ensure a place in the community. Do you feel that way sometimes? Think about that. It's not an all or nothing. Or, and are you your child's skill builder, finding opportunities to learn in everyday settings? What are the opportunities when you go into the supermarket, when you're preparing dinner, when you're taking a family trip? They all provide opportunities to practice. And are you supporting, in that supporting role, to find those opportunities? And, or are you a part of a child's largest support system, your child's largest support system that encourages connections and serve as a guest and a guide? And you'll hear that language a lot in Nest, a guest and a guide. We're curious and we recognize that we are invited in to give support and to provide a system that serves to guide our children, but that we are a guest in the life of our loved ones. And that's the balance we always seek. That's a term that you'll hear a lot in Nest. So let's think about some of those activities that you can identify to build those everyday skills for this goal, this mission, the vision, the dream of interdependence. In Nest, we've developed an advocacy ladder. You'll see it, and we have some visuals, some pictures for you. That starts with building awareness and practicing those advocacy skills. It has 6 steps. I'll go through them. And each step has some suggested developmentally appropriate activities that will help your loved one, your child, to move towards this goal. And families are part of the team. Very often I say, you know your child better and longer than any staff member working with your child. You are an essential member of that team in support, in teaching, and in sharing and collaborating with the support team. Through this process together, we can help children and your families develop this collaborative advocacy so that the system, your family system, can develop advocacy skills both individually and collectively. So it starts with the foundation, and that's the philosophy around curiosity. The first step is safety, right? When we're leading our children and supporting our children and guiding our children and being invited into our children's lives, we need to ensure their safety. What is safe for younger children may look different than safety for your teenage children. It goes beyond childproofing, beyond making sure that sharp edges are covered. But it really creates sensory friendly environments where children feel safe navigating their environments. Establish clear routines. Think about mornings and bedtime routines. Be consistent in that. Perhaps use visuals, a talking clock, simple steps to follow. Keep bedtime routines consistent. The more your child feels safe in those routines, the more they will adapt to those routines. Develop safety plans in your house. What happens when your child is feeling uncomfortable, overtired, overstimulated? What's the plan? Where's the safe place in the house? You can role play that. You can write social stories, and your school team can help you with that. Our staff in Nest, the speech pathologists, the teachers, are experts in developing those social stories. And there are several really good applications now that you can use as well. But again, in this interdependence, ask for help, and it's there for you. And obviously, creating those safe spaces. I've already mentioned, where do they retreat when they're feeling they need a moment? They need a moment alone. They need a safe space alone. Include those things that will provide comfort to your child. Include favorite toys, um, favorite activities, quiet activities, safe activities, sensory friendly activities. Older children will need different kinds of routines. Perhaps they'll begin to use their digital calendars, perhaps on their phone, perhaps on their Apple Watch, perhaps on their device. Do timers help? Um, how long is homework going to take? Let's set a timer, and when the timer goes off, you're done. If you want to continue, that's fine, but set it up so that they know what to expect and they're feeling safe. Create a plan together, including how to contact family members or a trusted friend. If your loved one, if your child is old enough to have a phone, what does internet safety look like? How is that taught? And where is that secure, safe, trusted adult, and how do they contact them if they need to do so? And then encourage your child to create their own spaces. What you think is comfortable and was comfortable 2 years ago may not be comfortable anymore. So listen, and that's where we are guesting with our child, listen and encourage them to create those spaces.
I just wanted to pause for a second, Yvette, and if you could go back to the previous slide, and a lot of what Yvette touched on is what is mirrored in a nest classroom, right? So when she says retreat to a safe space, where is that going to be? We have break areas within each classroom, even up to middle school and high school. It may not be in the classroom itself. It might be like right outside in the hallway. There's always a place available for our nest kids if they're sensory overwhelmed, or if there's that safety net there, right? So they can retreat. And the routines and the procedures, they all help with this preventing the sensory overwhelm, right? And academically as well, but the routines and the procedures are all taught ahead of time. Our staff is trained to get that all sorted for our kids for this express purpose, safety, right? We want our students to feel safe in the classroom, because we know that without that feeling of safety, how much are they really going to learn?
Exactly. I know when I'm feeling anxious about something, I'm thinking about going through security at the airport. What helps me do that? What helps your child to do that? There are times during the day that environmentally it may cause you to feel a sense of discomfort and perhaps even a sense of feeling unsafe. So to set up those environments and constantly review them and update them really, really helps. Thank you for sharing that. So the next step on the ladder, the next rung on the ladder, is asking um, those trusted people in your child's system to notice an unmet need. And you are primary um, in looking for that and watching for that. Are noises too loud? Is the lighting too bright? Does your child react to the dark? So the answer to is the light too bright, or am I uncomfortable in the dark, has a different response. You may have a night light. You may dim the lights. Are fabrics itchy? I have to tell you, I have a grown adult. She was wearing flannel pants to school every day for probably 5 years. The jeans or any other kind of pant was really uncomfortable. So go with that. Smells and tastes may be hard to tolerate. Think about how you feel when you walk into an environment and you smell something that is really uncomfortable for you, something that may create a sensory response. We all feel them. Does your child like crowds, or does your child avoid crowds? So it's important for you to notice that. And before taking action, both the child and encourage the child to share, and the trusted adults need to notice what's happening. In this step, pay close attention to how your child reacts with their environment in different environments. Acknowledge all forms of communication. Your child may not have the words to tell you, but you will notice something in their body language and how they're moving. I can tell you it took a very long time for my grandchildren to use a public restroom. The sound of someone else flushing and the sound of the hand dryer was really creating high levels of stress. I needed to watch that and needed to help find the words or the message as to what was getting in the way, so as to help. Every behavior is your child's way of telling you something. And recognizing your family's biases and expectations around your child's neurodivergence is critical. Um, Families have often said that their parents, the grandparent, has expectations that do not allow for accommodations of the unmet needs. Families have sometimes said to me that the partner that's co-parenting may not understand and be able to notice those unmet needs and just wants the child to, sort of get over it and fit in. That will not get to the goal of interdependence and this collaborative advocacy. And that becomes your role in noticing that unmet need. And here's an example. Halloween is coming up. Does your child hide behind the door or hide behind you whenever the doorbell rings? Does your child react strongly to the doorbell ringing? How about looking at bright lights? How about listening to strange sounds? How about the crowds? So think about this, and the next slide will give you some guidance around this moment. So initially for younger children, and then throughout adulthood, follow the moment. What is your child focusing on? Is it a particular toy, a particular routine, perhaps a sound, perhaps a cartoon, a video? Um, the repetitive play may really be soothing and usually is soothing to the child. It may be very interesting to them. Rather than stop it, be curious about it. Step into it and see the purpose. We strongly encourage you to watch the transitions. What is your child telling you? What's their reaction when you turn off the television? When you transition and say, no, you can't use the device now, the time is up. How about entering a playground or leaving a playground? Recognize what helps them rather than reacting to it. Provide a visual support, give them what we call priming, give them an idea of what will happen, try to continue the consistency. If you go back to the playground and you noticed something worked before, repeat that activity. And also notice, when does your child refuse or withdraw, or perhaps get overly excited and the behaviors or the reactions escalate. Notice those things. They're all keys to unmet needs. For older children, we encourage you to track the energy level. When do they seem drained? When are they energized? And then discuss the patterns with them. What part of your day takes the most out of you? Are they on sensory overload? And think about this yourself, coming home from a long day's work. Perhaps you were stuck in traffic. You enter the house. Are you high energy? Do you need 10 minutes to just relax? Perhaps sit in your favorite chair, have a cup of tea, whatever your routine is. What you're feeling is very often um, similar to some of the needs that your child may be feeling. Notice, particularly our teens, when they stop doing things that they used to enjoy. And ask yourself, are they feeling socially stressed? Is your child now being teased? Is it typical adolescent behavior? Teenagers change as quickly as the calendar changes. And notice their sensory balance. Is a new interest being replacing a previous passion? Be curious about it. Don't try to correct it. Watch it, notice it, engage in it, enter into it, and be a partner with your child in asking them to describe to you what can work for them, what has worked for them. For example, I noticed you got really quiet when we walked in to pick the busy place. I'm wondering if it feels too crowded. What can we do about that? I see you covering your ears sometimes. I'm wondering, does this sound feel really strong? I noticed you wanted to leave the party when the birthday cake came out and children started to sing. I wonder if we could find a quieter place together. So develop that sensory awareness. This is the step when your child begins to recognize what needs they have to feel safe within their community and safe within themselves. Developing awareness is through heightened need is through highlighting needs and signals. You can respond to these needs, notice them, be curious about them. Don't be judgmental. That's a big thing to ask of adults. Practice that and let your children know that their experiences matter. In younger children, you may want to name the feelings and the body clues. Is it too loud? Do you want to go to a more quieter spot? Offer choices for them that you can implement safely. I noticed that you like some quiet time after school. Would you like to play outside or would you like to build with Legos? You could substitute that for whatever your child enjoys doing. Give them two choices, let them decide. And then use check-ins during transition. How are you feeling? How's your body feeling right now? Are you feeling tired? You feeling jumpy? Have them describe what they're feeling to the extent that they can. They will show you if they're not using words. For older children, you want to encourage your child to use a simple mood tracker. Think about a journal, think about a cartoon. What came to mind was a hospital visit. You know, in the emergency room, they have those smiley faces. How are you feeling? Are you feeling a level 1, which is a big smile? Or are you feeling a level 5, which is, you're in a lot of pain? Tell me, show me what level you're at. Translate that into sensory or moods that you may see your child displaying. Use a collaborative problem solving approach. If your child is getting stuck in doing homework, in approaching a social activity, you may want to say, what part of that, name what it is, feels hard? I'm wondering what could have made it easier. Perhaps we need to have shorter sessions for homework with breaks in between. Teens will learn that needs are not weaknesses, but a signal for adjustment. And that is a skill they will take with them into adulthood. Practice real life skills in safe places. For example, let your child select the restaurant that your family will go to. You may want to give them 2 or 3 options. Let them choose. Let them perhaps select the food. As I said to you, my daughter wore flannel pants for years. It's fine if they want to wear the same color shirt every day. And that provides a good opportunity to discuss preferences when clothes shopping and how to do laundry. You don't want them wearing the same unwashed shirt, but perhaps they love this black t-shirt and no, it's fine. Gives you an opportunity to discuss options and decisions. And that leads right into identifying options. Always include the things your child loves. You remember a couple of slides back? I said perhaps you want to play outside, maybe football, maybe soccer, or perhaps you want to play Legos. If your child really does not like Legos, don't offer that as an option. Perhaps they like to color. Perhaps they like to cook with you. Think about what they enjoy. Use declarative language, and that's a whole workshop in and of itself. But as an example, um, it's the morning, you're trying to get out of the house, and you've said two or three times, and there's a visual that they have to put on their shoes, and they're still walking around the house, and the shoes aren't on. You may say, I see that you may be looking for your shoes. Let's think maybe where they could be. Again, routine comes in handy. If you have a place for the shoes, the jacket, the book bag, they will be comfortable in looking for it. And narrate your own needs. When you are hitting a problem, you can say, I'm not sure how to fix this. I'm going to ask for help. That happens frequently with me when I'm trying to download something or use new technology. I need to ask for help, and I'm going to narrate that. I'm going to say that out loud. Guide your children to know how to have their needs met. Work with them to identify what can work. And remember, supports can be people and can be systems, can be applications, um, and work with them and practice that repertoire. Adults remind themselves, and in doing so, remind their children that it's okay to need help and to ask others to assist when needed. If you've ever been lost, it's always great to know who a trusted adult is that you can ask for directions as you begin to get really nervous. Perfect example of saying, I don't know where I am. I have to stop and ask for directions. I wonder who I should ask. And I am. And here, in terms of identifying age appropriately, I'm going to try to get both up on the screen. Okay. So for the younger children, perhaps you want to get two stickies with pictures or cut out two pictures or three pictures and say to your child, tell me the order in which we should do this. Think about bedtime routine. You have to brush your teeth. You have to wash your hands and face, perhaps take a shower, and you have to put on your pajamas. What order should we do that in? And there's some decision making your child can make. Do they want to brush their teeth after their pajamas are on or before? It it gets done. Give them some agency in that decision. Think about plane trips. Think about car rides. Think about transportation. You're going to be on the train for a half hour. You're going to be in the car for an hour. Maybe you want to make a list of the things that you want to take with you for that car ride. Is it books? Is it perhaps a listening device because they like to listen to music? What do they want? Do they want to take their favorite stuffy, their soft toy? What do they want? And make that list. Give them the ability to have those options. For the older child, you may want to think about what can work. The family has a change in plans. Say, okay, let's think of two things, that should say things, that may help right now. I wonder what will work best. And of course, the real life practice, let your teen make the list of preferred activities. Perhaps give them the opportunity to plan next weekend and select the order. Do you have a family movie night? Let them select the movie from a list of acceptable options. Um, you're planning a weekend that will include going to visit a family member and pumpkin picking. In what order do they want to do that? To the extent that you can support that. Some things they may not be able to choose, but give them the opportunity to choose whenever they can.
Yvette, there's a question.
Sure.
With the real life choices, how do you know when they are ready to level up in responsibility, such as walking to school, that the sensory stuff won't get in the way?
What a great question. I love the questions that think about travel training and supporting your child there. Um, that is a step in interdependence that is critical because once somebody can do that in a group without their parent, it really opens up a whole world to them. I think to answer your question very specifically is to watch. You know, when are they giving you the signal that, oh, look, there is Joni, and she's in your third grade class. Perhaps we can walk together and then step back a little bit. For the older kids, I really watch and say to families to watch them. You're practicing the skill of crossing the street safely. Where do you cross? You go to a crosswalk if you're living in a community that has a crosswalk. If there's a street light, practice that, reinforce it and say it out loud. And then step back. Let them move forward without you. A funny story, I warned you, I'm a storyteller. I was working with a young woman, a teenager, who really wanted to go to school herself, wanted her mother to stop taking her to school. And she practiced a whole summer. They practiced safety. Remember, keep your eyes up, don't look down, look for cars, walk with a group of other people walking. They practiced. Mom sent her on and followed her a block behind to make sure that she was going and making all the right decisions in terms of what street to walk on and what door to enter. And finally, the first day of high school arrived, and mom um, goes out with her and takes her hand to go to the corner to say goodbye. And the young lady, Rose, looked at her mother and said, I'm in high school now. You really need to learn to cross the street yourself. So she was ready. We need to watch. I'm not minimizing the nervousness that families feel and the desire to protect, but the best way to answer your question is to watch and practice. I hope that answered the question. So here is the skill building. This is the practice. Provide the visual schedule of what to expect, even in walking to school. Give them the map. Some of our kids are really interested in that visual. How many streets do I walk and then turn right? Encourage your child to ask community helpers for small things. You're in the restaurant, encourage them to ask for water if they want, and assure them that they can use verbal or visual prompts. Sometimes your child may not want to use the words, but how many of us have asked for a check by putting up a finger? Um, Community helpers are sometimes, if it's a safe, reliable space that your family is familiar with, they know how to read those signs and they will respond. Um, this is the step where the children are practicing seeking support, both individually and collectively, and practice it in different kinds of contexts. If your child is preparing to take the train by themselves or to take the bus by themselves, practice where they're going to sit. Do they sit close to the driver? Do they sit in an empty spot? If there are several spots, do they sit right next to somebody or do you leave a spot? All of that is practice and thinking aloud. And think about all of those opportunities and contexts that you can practice that in. Parents also practice skills that support their child. Again, not in going it alone, but in the interdependence. I gave you the example of walking to school with a neighbor, perhaps traveling with a neighbor. I prefer that. I always meet a friend if I'm not traveling completely alone, at a designated spot to go through the airport or to travel on the train with a friend. I prefer that. And building off of each other and sharing the strategies is an important part of this step too. Think out loud, just as I just did. I meet a friend whenever I travel, when I know my friend is going, rather than meeting at the theater, at school. I meet in a place where we can go together. That's an example of sharing those strategies. For younger children, I'm going to get both. And again, I'm fixated on Halloween only because I love it. But not everybody does. Begin by practicing. It's not too late. If your child is planning a costume, to wear a costume, practice wearing it before Halloween. Also, let them know it's perfectly okay if they want to wear something more comfortable. You can practice wearing the costume and answering the door. Have a sibling ring the bell and answer the door. Provide a schedule and going back to that social story of what to expect. If you're going out in the street, you may expect a lot, crowds of people to be walking. You can walk with them or you can walk with a trusted adult or a sibling, whatever you've arranged. Um, Walking up to a front door may need practice. So practice building those skills. Um, please honor your child's preferences. Again, make a list and perhaps shop together for the giveaways. If you give out candy in your house, let your child pick out the candy. Do we really care whether it's something, sweet or chocolate? Let them choose it. And again, repeating their preference, honor whether to wear a costume, what costume, or whether they want to wear something comfortable, whether they want you to shut off the lights and not allow anybody to come to the door. It's really their preference. We can encourage, but listen to the signs and practice. For older kids, you may want to create a predictable sequence. Do you want to have a quiet night at home? Or do you want to go out with your friends? And if you want to go out with your friends, how long are you going to be out? And what's the thing to do if you want to come home? What's the safe thing? Again, that sensory and social rehearsal as is as important for the teenagers as it is for younger kids. I visited a young man's, a high school junior's home last evening. He is so into Halloween decorations that he has created one of those houses where 100 cars are parked waiting to see. He was so excited to show me what he has built over the years. Other kids hate it. So again, read your child signs and practice with them. Create a calm place to calm down. After they come home, they may need headphones. They may need just to chill out. Think about they may want to wear sunglasses when they're out in trick-or-treating because the lights are bothering them. And then at the end of the evening, reflect on what worked. You may have a quiet evening at home, and that's fine. Or they may have loved the group activity. Ask them, review with them, wonder with them, be curious with them. And then at the top of the rung is this collective advocacy. With practice and support, your children, will let you know what their preferences are. They will let your family know what their preferences are, and they will let those in the community know what their preferences are. In collective advocacy, we create a system that supports that, that accepts that, and that creates the environment where preferences are honored. Again, step back slightly to provide those spaces so your child can safely make those choices. Visualize that suggestion about walking a half a block behind your child the first week or two or month of their walking to school, and celebrate their actions both individually and as part of the community. This ultimate step of the ladder, your child will make choices and take action individually and as a group to get their needs met. In practicing this collective advocacy, children begin to embrace the idea that supporting one another creates a community, and we feel safe in our community. I often hear um, when kids are in a group and they have found other kids with similar interests, the students say to me, I found my tribe. What does that mean? That they found their group that they want to hang with, that share experiences. And it's a wonderful thing, but we have to accept that this is a process. Here's an example. The family collaborates to create a visual schedules for members of the family planning a holiday visit because after Halloween will come Thanksgiving and then the holidays will be upon us. Um, and that creates stress in homes for the adults and for the kids. How do you plan for that visit so that your child's preferences are honored and they feel safe? You create that by wondering, practicing, noticing, and then allowing them to select. Be a team helper. Choose a shared activity in your home. You're setting the table. You put out the spoons, I'll put out the dishes. If you have a pet, can they put the food in the dish? You're playing, let's set a timer to clean up the toys. And let your child tell you what they prefer. Your young child may say, I'd like to put away all of the, name the color. Give them the option. I'll put away all the other colors. Which color would you like to clean up? Practice speaking up together. taking turns, perhaps go to the library and practice. Where are I said graphic novels because I have an 11-year-old granddaughter and that's what she's asking for now. But it may be, where are the Clifford books? Can you point me in that direction? For your older um, loved ones, think about problem solving circles, short family check-ins. It could be 5, 10 minutes about something that's going to affect everybody this weekend. Perhaps it's a weekend plan. You're having guests in the home. You're going to visit someone. Encourage each person in your family to share one area of concern and try to problem solve that. I'm sure everyone in the family has an area of concern, not just your child, that you're trying to support. Allow your teenagers to become community helpers. Invite your child to choose an activity. Perhaps you have a neighbor that needs help bringing in the groceries. Perhaps you have a dog that needs to be walked. Um, Becoming a helper rather than the individual always needing help is so powerful. That one point of opportunity is really transformational. Have your child help a younger sibling. Perhaps there's an older grandparent or great grandparent that may need some help. Set up a game, read a page, help you bake cookies together. And if they're working with an older family member or a younger sibling, praise the moments of patience. We all need patience and reflect how it helps and how it feels when you help someone. And again, being a helper is a great reward. We need to ensure the opportunities for our children to have that sense of reward.
Yvette, I have a question if I
Go
can.
ahead.
Someone asked, how do we know between cushioning our child versus support? So for example, my son is sensitive to loud sounds. Unexpected sounds sometimes are inevitable. How can I desensitize and expose him while supporting him?
So,
Can
go
I
ahead.
just one real
Yeah.
quick, real quick?
Oh,
I wanted to reframe. I don't know who's asking the question, but instead of the word desensitize, right? We don't want to
thank you.
desensitize the child. Yeah. Um, in Ness, we want to honor that it is an actual sensitivity, right? We would love you to feel safe around what it is. But we also understand that this is the real, there's going to be moments where there's loud sounds in a school building. There are fire drills. There are all kinds of things that just happen, right? Something falls, shatters, it's loud. So we want to work with the child, not to desensitize them, but to empower them. And what am I going to do when something like an unexpected sound happens, right? So you, like if it was saying, you're going to partner with your child. You want to work with them, whether it's a social story or practicing. You're going to work with them to figure it out, right? So that in that moment they feel empowered. I don't have to be so scared. I know I can grab my headphones. I know that I can get to the break area. I know that I can just, close my ears. I can walk away. Give them multiple options, have them offer multiple options to you and work it out together. But I did want to point out, we're not in the business of desensitizing anybody, right? You cannot desensitize me out of having wet hands and freaking out over having wet hands when I'm not washing my hands, right? I can't be desensitized from that. And I don't want to be. Same thing with our children, with your children, our nest, our nest kids. We are looking to empower them. I hope that makes sense. Yvette, if you have anything else to
No, I was going right there. Thank you so much. Again, having the options. What's the thing that makes me feel safe when? And if you have those opportunities, as was just stated, they can remove themselves from the situation. It's inevitable. And I'm going to point out none of us really like when the smoke alarm goes off. What do we do about it? I often think about the first time in the summer at the beach going into the cold water. How do we brace ourselves for that? I'll never be desensitized from shaking that at that moment. But I have options. And that's what we want to make sure that our children have those options. What's the thing to do when, and how can I do that? You can't do everything every moment, but have some opportunities for decisions in that bag of tricks. That they carry. It's their bag of tricks. So thank you for saying that. I was I was going there and you said it brilliantly. Thank you. Um, Again, in summary, I have made the shift from independence to interdependence as a concept, as a vision, as the dream. And I have made the shift from self-advocacy to this collective advocacy. And I invite you to shift your thinking and do some more reading. We have some resources. It clearly is a shift in mindset. Why are we shifting? Systems are hard to navigate alone. And when we do it together with our group, with those that can support, with the systems that will work, it makes difficult systems more easy to navigate. Not that they're totally easy, but more easier. Collective advocacy is stronger when the support and the need for support doesn't rely solely on one individual. And I want to say this is true for our students, our children, your children in Nest, as well as for you as a parent. I want you to reflect back to one of the first questions I asked. Are you your child's advocate in that fight mode to support and to make sure things are happening safely and optimally for your child? Well, then it's easier when you're collectively working with a system and it's not relying on you alone. And collective advocacy builds capacity. That collective advocacy will allow your child to feel safe and to have options and for their preferences to be honored within the community. And that builds that collective advocacy builds that capacity within the community. As I said, situations and community events are not always organized with everyone in mind. And as a community, we can make those spaces more inclusive. The responsibility is a shared responsibility, allowing your child to participate in planning and decision making. I gave you many suggestions to think about. And when we all learn to advocate together, we make a change in our communities. It becomes easier and fairer for everyone. I was blessed to have a mother who lived to be 103 years old. And my father also lived a very long, wonderful life. My mother taught me that if we live long enough, if we are blessed with a long life, each one of us will need to ask for help and support in ways that we never imagined. I can tell you the support that I needed to move 2 wheelchairs and luggage through an airport. Airports are not systems historically that were set up to support, but now they are far more accessible. We all, if we are blessed, will need help. And it's great to model that and build that for our children. Um, Great quote. I'll let you read it. And this is a collective education, a collective advocacy. Again, it's not up to your child to fit in. Everyone in the family can notice the barriers. Everyone in your family can learn we're going to support preferences, and that's okay. And the burden doesn't fall on your child or on you alone to explain or defend preferences or opportunities or decisions. And families, and I will say extended families and communities, grow stronger when we support each other. And the capacity, um, we encourage the understanding that not everyone needs the same level of support and not everyone can ask for it in the same way. And that is valid. And we build the capacity of the extended family members, siblings, community members to recognize when advocacy is needed, when to step in, and when to step out. And I think that was your question, like, when do you um, when do you step back knowing that your child has practiced and it's a trustful moment. And as a parent, you're always worried, but giving the opportunity to practice those skills and then feeling the success makes a world of difference for your child. And then I say plan with the goal in mind. So your child will not always be in a public school. There will reach a time when you've celebrated high school graduation, and at some point, your child doesn't want to live at home anymore. Your child wants, and you have planned for a post-high school college experience, perhaps a competitive college experience. Perhaps your child is going to enter the world of work. What's that goal? And how do you begin to practice that? I promise you, your child will at some point say, whether in words or in deeds, Mom or Dad, it's time you've learned to cross the street yourself. Give them that dignity. So that brings us to the end. One more thing I did want to mention, and that is the dignity of making a mistake. And we didn't really talk about that. But I can tell you, as an adult, I've made some pretty foolish decisions in my life. Um, and we learned from them. And we need to be sure that our children have that dignity of decision making. And if they make a mistake, to reflect on that with support and learn from that to move forward. That's the long range goal. So, with that, I have a request for feedback. Do you want to talk about the newsletter and then we can open it up for questions and answers?
Yes, you should already be signed up for the Nest Family newsletter if you're here today. I'm assuming that's how you got the link to be here today. If not, you should talk to your school's guidance counselor or social worker so they can get your email on the list. And that's how you will get all the flyers going forward. So we're going to be doing our next workshop in January, and we're hoping to have a advocate present for us. We don't have a date yet because we're waiting to confirm, but it will be a self-advocate.
And will you be dropping, I'm realizing that that hot link, people may not be able to go into the feedback form, so perhaps we can drop that in somewhere.
I will drop it into the chat.
Great. We appreciate your feedback. If you found one suggestion helpful or one part of the presentation thought-provoking, I will take that as a success. Let us know what can work, what you're wondering about, and how we can support you in joining this collective advocacy vision. Any other questions, Rani?
I don't see any right now, but we can stay on for a few minutes and leave it open.
Excellent.
The Q&A function, you'll see it on the bottom tab. You can click that and type in your questions when you have them.
I'm going to stop the share.
And I'm going to stop recording.
Okay. Thank you.